"Laugh at me, my dear, as much as you like. It's very lucky you've got me," Mrs. Gosselin declared. "She means I can't manage for myself," said Mary to the visitor. "What nonsense you talk," Mrs. Gosselin murmured, counting stitches. "I can't, mamma, I can't, I admit it," Mary continued. "But injudicious precipitation and—what's the other thing?—creeping prudence seem to come out in very much the same place," the young man objected. "Do you mean since I, too, wither on the tree?" "It only comes back to saying how hard it is nowadays to marry one's daughters," said the lucid Mrs. Gosselin, saving Firminger, however, the trouble of an ingenious answer. "I don't contend that at the best it's easy." But Guy Firminger would not have struck you as capable of much conversational effort as he lounged there in the summer softness, with ironic familiarities, like one of the old friends who rarely deviate into sincerity. He was a robust but loose-limbed young man, with a well-shaped head and a face smooth, fair, and kind. He was in knickerbockers, and his clothes, which had seen service, were composed of articles that didn't match. His laced boots were dusty. He had evidently walked a certain distance, an indication confirmed by the lingering sociable way in which, in his basket seat, he tilted himself towards Mary Gosselin. It pointed to a pleasant reason for a long walk. This young lady of 25 had black hair and blue eyes, a combination often associated with the effect of beauty. The beauty in this case, however, was dim and latent, not vulgarly obvious, and if her height and slenderness gave that impression of length of line which, as we know, is the fashion, Mary Gosselin had on the other hand too much expression to be generally admired. Every one thought her intellectual. A few of the most simple-minded even thought her plain. What Guy Firminger thought, or rather what he took for granted, for he was not built up on depths of reflection, will probably appear from this narrative. "Yes, indeed, things have come to a pass that's awful for us," the girl announced. "For us, you mean," said Firminger. "We're hunted like the ostrich. We're trapped and stalked and run to earth. We go in fear. I assure you we do." "Are you hunted, Guy?" Mrs. Gosselin asked, with an inflection of her own. "Yes, Mrs. Gosselin, even moi qui vous parle, the ordinary male of commerce, inconceivable as it may appear. I know something about it." "And of whom do you go in fear?" Mary Gosselin took up an uncut book and a paper knife which she had laid down on the advent of the other visitors. "My dear child, of Diana and her nymphs, of the spinster at large. She's always out with her rifle. And it isn't only that. You know there's always a second gun, a walking arsenal, at her heels. I forget for the moment who Diana's mother was, and the genealogy of the nymphs, but not only do the old ladies know the younger ones are out, they distinctly go with them." "Who was Diana's mother, my dear?" Mrs. Gosselin inquired of her daughter. "She was a beautiful old lady with pink ribbons in her cap and a genius for knitting," the girl replied, cutting her book. "Oh, I'm not speaking of you two, dears. You're not like any one else. You're an immense comfort," said Guy Firminger. "But they've reduced it to a science, and I assure you that if one were any one in particular, if one were not protected by one's obscurity, one's life would be a burden. Upon my honour, one wouldn't escape. I've seen it. I've watched them. Look at poor Beaupre. Look at little Raddle over there. I object to him, but I bleed for him." "Lord Beaupré won't marry again," said Mrs. Gosselin with an air of conviction. "So much the worse for him." "Come, that's a concession to our charms," Mary laughed. But the ruthless young man explained away his concession. "I mean that to be married's the only protection, or else to be engaged." "To be permanently engaged, wouldn't that do?" Mary Gosselin asked. "Beautifully. I would try it if I were a parti." "And how's the little boy?" Mrs. Gosselin presently inquired. "What little boy?" "Your little cousin, Lord Beaupré's child. Isn't it a boy?" "Oh, poor little beggar, he isn't up to much. He was awfully cut up by scarlet fever." "You're not the rose indeed, but you're